They threw rejected Omega into the Moonfall chamber. When it opened, she walked out as chosen Luna. The night of the Moonrise Festival arrived like a silver tide over the cliffs of the Silverfang Pack Kingdom. The moon hung low in the sky, full and bright, its light spilling over the jagged edges of the citadel and casting long shadows across the stone courtyards. The air was thick with anticipation. Tonight, the next Luna would be chosen, a position of honor and responsibility, one that bound the chosen female to the Alpha, guiding the pack with strength, wisdom, and heart. Lyra walked among the crowd, small and quiet, her soft blue cloak brushing against the rough stone of the streets. She kept her head low, as she always did, careful not to draw attention. The laughter of other Omegas and the approving nods of the Alphas made her feel invisible, as if she were only a shadow walking among the living.
Her heart thumped nervously in her chest.
She had dreamed of this night for as long as she could remember. Not of glory, not of applause, but of belonging. She wanted to show she could be more than what the council called weak and unworthy. But deep down she feared what she already knew, that her bloodline, thin and quiet, would never measure up. The festival began with the beating of drums echoing through the mountains like the pulse of the earth itself. Alphas from every corner of the kingdom gathered in the central courtyard, their capes like flowing rivers of black and silver. The council of elders stood high above the crowd, their eyes cold and calculating. The Moonrise Festival was not just a celebration, it was a test. And tonight, Lyra would face the ultimate judgment. Bring forth the candidates for Luna, the chief elder's voice boomed. The words seemed to shake the air. Lyra stepped forward, her legs trembling, hands clutching the hem of her cloak. She was not alone. Several other Omegas followed, confident, polished, and proud. Their eyes held fire and pride. Lyra's own heart sank as she looked at them. They were everything she was not. Strong, bright, unafraid. The council began their inspection. The candidates were measured, weighed, and tested for agility, wit, and the strength of their bond with the moon's magic. Lyra tried to stand tall, tried to show courage, but every move felt clumsy. Every word felt small. Whispers rippled through the crowd. She doesn't belong, someone said, their voice sharp like a knife. She'll fail before she even steps forward, another added. Lyra's chest tightened. She wanted to run, to vanish into the shadows where no one could mock her. But she could not. She could not show fear. She could not let them see her break. She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself, but the whispers grew louder like a storm surrounding her. Then the council spoke.
This Omega, the elder said, pointing at her, is deemed unworthy of the Moonrise trial.
She is weak, lacking the strength to guide the pack or stand beside the Alpha. She will face the Moonfall chamber. A hush fell over the crowd. The Moonfall chamber. Only spoken of in fearful whispers. The ancient pit that had claimed many before, those who failed the trials or were cast aside by destiny. No one had ever returned unchanged. Some never returned at all. Lyra's knees nearly buckled. The cold eyes of the council pierced her soul, their decision final and merciless. She wanted to speak, to protest, to tell them they were wrong, but the words caught in her throat. The crowd stared, some with curiosity, others with delight at her humiliation. "Prepare the chamber," the elder ordered. Guards moved quickly, forming a corridor that led to the edge of the cliffs. Lyra was surrounded, the walls of stone closing in like the grip of destiny itself. Her heart raced, her breath shallow, her mind spinning with fear and disbelief. As the guards pushed her forward, Lyra caught a glimpse of the other candidates. Their eyes were wide, but they did not move to help. They were spectators of her fall, witnesses to the moment her life would change, or end. Bird. The Moonfall chamber was hidden beneath the cliffs, a place carved by ancient magic. Its entrance was a dark, gaping maw, swirling with silver mist that seemed alive. The mist whispered and twined, as if sensing her fear, amplifying it. Lyra felt the cold touch of the stone under her palms as she stepped closer, every step heavier than the last. Inspiration. "Stay strong, Lyra," she whispered to herself. Her voice was barely audible, a fragile thread against the roaring crowd above. You are more than they think. You have to be. The chamber door began to close behind her, a heavy slab of stone that seemed to seal her fate. The mist thickened, curling around her ankles, climbing her legs like fingers. She shivered, but she did not scream. She did not cry. Not yet. The chamber was alive in ways she could not understand. The walls glowed faintly with symbols of the moon, ancient glyphs that pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. The air smelled faintly of rain and night-blooming flowers. A cold wind swirled through the cavern, carrying voices she could not identify. Some whispered encouragement. Others laughed, cruel and hollow. Lyra closed her eyes. She thought of her family, her small home on the cliffs, the life she had loved quietly hidden from the harsh judgment of the pack. She thought of her own dreams, fragile and flickering, and for the first time she allowed herself to feel hope. The mist thickened, wrapping around her like a shroud. And then, as if the moon itself had descended into the chamber, a soft light bathed her. It was warm, yet chilling, like the calm before a storm. The whispers grew louder, shaping into words she could understand. Lyra. Chosen, you are more than you know. Her eyes flew open. She spun around, but the chamber was empty. Only the mist moved, responding to her presence. The symbols on the walls glimmered brighter, casting silver patterns across the stone floor. She felt something inside her awaken, a pulse of energy, gentle but insistent, calling to her, filling her with a courage she had never known. A shadow appeared in the light, tall and commanding. Lyra's breath caught. The figure was neither male nor female, neither fully spirit nor entirely solid. Its eyes glowed like twin moons, and its voice was both a whisper and a roar. You were cast out, it said, rejected by those who cannot see. But the Moonfall chamber does not judge as they do. It tests only truth, strength, and heart. If you survive, you will not be the same Omega who entered. You will become chosen. Lyra's legs trembled, but she nodded, not fully understanding, yet feeling a strange certainty. The fear that had clawed at her for years began to ebb, replaced by a burning determination. The shadow reached toward her, and the mist responded, wrapping around her like a cocoon. She felt herself lifted, not by hands, but by something far older and more powerful. The chamber seemed to bend and twist around her, time slowing, the air humming with energy. She felt as though she were falling and rising all at once, as though the moon itself had taken her hand. And then a voice, soft and urgent, whispered directly into her mind. Do not falter. Your path begins now. The chamber trembled. The ground beneath her seemed to breathe, alive and aware. The silver mist swirled faster, the glyphs glowing brighter. Bray. Lyra felt her heartbeat sync with the rhythm of the moonlight. She was no longer the small, rejected Omega. She could feel the stirrings of something vast and powerful inside her, an energy she had never known, a strength she had always hidden from herself. The last thing she saw before the mist engulfed her completely was the darkness of the chamber door, sealing her away from the world she had known. And yet, in that darkness, she felt unbroken. Somewhere deep inside the chamber, beyond the fear, beyond the cold and shadows, something ancient and pure had awakened. Lyra did not know what awaited her, but she no longer feared it. She was ready. Operation. The moonlight pulsed one last time, bright and unwavering, and the chamber seemed to whisper her name again. Lyra! Chosen! And then the chamber trembled violently, as if the moon itself had opened its heart to her. The mist inside the Moonfall chamber swirled around Lyra like a living river. It wrapped around her ankles, climbed her legs, and danced across her shoulders. She could barely see, yet she could feel everything. The walls pulsing, the air humming, and the faint rhythm of the moon above. It was as though the chamber itself were alive, watching, testing, and waiting for her to move. Lyra took a hesitant step forward.
The stone beneath her feet was smooth but uneven, like the bones of an ancient creature.
Every sound echoed, and every shadow seemed to twist in the silver glow. She shivered, not just from the cold, but from a growing awareness that the chamber was more than a prison. It was a crucible. Her mind replayed the events outside, the mocking whispers, the judgment of the council, the fear in her own heart. She had been rejected, cast aside, told she was unworthy. And yet, here, alone, she began to feel a strange pull. Something inside her stirred. She had always believed she was small, weak, unimportant, but the chamber seemed to whisper the opposite. A voice echoed softly through the mist. It was low, calm, yet carried an authority that made her heart race. You are here because they cannot see your truth, it said. Do you accept the challenge? Lyra's throat tightened. She wanted to answer, but her voice was lost in the swirling mist. Instead, she nodded, her resolve hardening. She would face whatever this trial demanded. She could not turn back.
Not now! Not ever!
The chamber shifted. Shadows stretched across the walls, forming shapes she could barely recognize. At first, they were vague, like smoke in the corner of her vision. Then they became faces. Faces she knew, faces she feared, and faces she wished she could forget. Her own doubts manifested before her. She saw herself, small and trembling, unable to speak or move, constantly rejected by those she trusted. The shadows laughed, mocking her, echoing the words of the council. You cannot lead, they whispered. You are nothing. Lyra's knees shook, desperate. She wanted to collapse, to sink into the shadows, to let them claim her. But then she remembered the voice, the soft command that had reached her mind before. She took a deep breath and forced her legs to move. I am more than you think, she said aloud, her voice quivering but firm. I am not nothing. I will rise. The shadows paused. The laughter died down, replaced by a strange silence. The mist thickened and then parted, forming a narrow path. Lyra took it, each step echoing through the chamber. She felt the pull of something powerful ahead, something that called to her very soul. And then she saw him. A figure stepped from the mist, tall and commanding. His presence was both frightening and magnetic. He wore a cloak that shimmered like midnight, and his eyes glowed like twin moons. Inspiration. Lyra's breath caught. "I am Kale," the figure said. Inspiration. His voice was calm, deep, and somehow familiar, though she had never met him before.
"You are far from your world, little Omega."
Brask, but this chamber does not judge as they do. It will not punish you unless you fail yourself. Lyra's heart raced. Was he a guardian of the chamber? Brr. A spirit? She could not tell. Brr. But the pull she felt was undeniable, a magnetic force that made her body tense and alert.
I don't know if I can do this, she admitted, her voice barely a whisper. Kale's eyes softened for the briefest moment, and then sharpened again.
Brr. You can. You already have what they could never see. The chamber only tests what is hidden. It will show you your fears, your doubts, and your strengths. Inspiration.
Survive, and you will not be the same Omega who entered. Lyra swallowed hard.
Psh. She looked down at her hands, at the small marks from the rough stone. She had always been gentle, careful, quiet. But now she felt something inside her awaken. Inspiration. The moonlight, dim at first, began to swirl around her fingers. The chamber responded. Brr.
What is happening? She asked, awe in her voice.
Brr. The chamber answers only to truth, Kale said. Do not hide who you are, Lyra. Brr.
Face yourself. The shadows on the walls began to move again. This time they were more than mocking faces.
They became creatures of darkness and light, illusions born from her own mind. She saw wolves with eyes like fire, specters of past challengers, and images of the pack outside, suffering without guidance. Each vision tested her courage, forcing her to confront the fear she had buried deep inside. Lyra's legs threatened to give way. Inspiration. The fear of failure, the memory of rejection, and the weight of responsibility pressed down on her. But then she thought of the moon above the cliffs, shining on her home, on the life she hoped to protect. Brrr. She closed her eyes and focused, letting the moonlight flow through her, warming her heart and steadying her hands. The illusions attacked with questions, with doubts. Burris. Why should you lead? What makes you worthy? Inspiration. You are weak. You are nothing. Brr. Lyra's voice rang out louder this time. Breath.
I am more than you know. I have strength, I have heart, and I will not fail. The creatures froze.
Brr. The shadows shrank back into the mist. The chamber seemed to breathe around her, the silver light brightening. Inspiration. She felt a warmth on her skin, a pulse of power that made her chest ache with possibility. KL stepped closer. Brr. You are beginning to understand, he said. Strength is not in the loudest voice or the largest body. Brr. True strength comes from heart, courage, and the will to rise when all is against you.
Lyra's eyes met his.
Inspiration. For the first time, she did not see a shadowy figure. She saw a mirror of what she could become, a being of power and grace, tempered with wisdom. And yet, there was something else in his gaze, something she could not name. A warning? Inspiration. A promise? The path ahead shimmered, leading to a circular chamber at the center of the labyrinth. Symbols of the moon glowed on the floor, ancient and unreadable, yet somehow familiar. Lyra stepped forward, each footfall ringing with purpose. Brr.
As she entered the center, the mist rose, forming a cocoon around her. Kale watched silently, his expression unreadable.
Inspiration. And then the final trial began. Images of her past rose before her, clear and vivid. Brr. She saw the moment she had been rejected by the council, the cruel laughter of the other Omegas, the fear in her own heart. She saw the pack in turmoil, lost and vulnerable without guidance. Inspiration. Each vision demanded a choice, to flee, to despair, or to rise. Lyra felt tears sting her eyes, but she did not let them fall. Inspiration. She clenched her fists and focused on the pulse of the moon, on the quiet strength she had always hidden. She stepped into each vision, not away from it, confronting each fear with courage. The chamber shuddered, the walls glowing brighter. Kale's voice echoed around her, deep and steady. You are not alone. You are stronger than the doubts of others. Bert. Let the moon guide you, Lyra. Let it awaken what lies within. The final vision appeared. Her pack, divided, fighting among themselves, their survival in danger. Barah. Lyra's heart ached, and a surge of power rose within her. She extended her hands, feeling the moonlight gather around her fingers, shaping and bending to her will. She whispered words she did not know she could speak. Stand together. Protect each other. Barash. We are one. The vision dissolved. Brr. The chamber fell silent, the mist slowly retreating. Lyra felt her knees weaken, but her heart was steady. Inspiration. She had faced her fears, confronted her doubts, and survived the trial. Kale stepped forward. Inspiration. You have done what many cannot. You have faced the shadows and emerged unbroken. Bury. But this is only the beginning. The Moonfall Chamber has chosen you, Lyra. Brr. You are marked by its power, destined for something greater than you have ever imagined. Lyra's chest swelled with a mixture of relief and awe. Inspiration. The fear that had consumed her for years was gone, replaced by a quiet certainty. She was not weak. She was not nothing. She had strength, courage, and heart. Bear. Thank you, she whispered, though she knew Kale had not done this for her. He had only guided, tested, and watched. Kale's eyes softened just for a moment. The world outside will not understand what you have become. Inspiration. They will test you again, and they may try to bring you down. But remember this, the moon is with you. Brass. And so am I when the time comes. Lyra nodded, feeling a spark of connection she could not yet name. Inspiration. She did not fully trust it, nor did she fully understand it. But it was there, like a light in the shadows. The chamber began to shift again, the mist receding, revealing a passage leading upward, toward the surface and the world she had left behind. Brr. She took a deep breath, stepped forward, and felt the pulse of the moon guide her. Outside, the Moonrise Festival had ended, and the pack waited. Inspiration. The council would be watching. The Alphas would be waiting. But Lyra was no longer the frightened Omega they had known.
She was something more, something chosen. And somewhere deep in the chamber, Kale watched silently. A shadow and a promise, waiting for the moment their paths would cross again.
Inspiration. The story ended with a whisper carried by the mist. You have survived the shadows, Lyra, but the true trial is only beginning. Brr. The silver light of dawn spilled across the cliffs of the Silver Fang Pack Citadel as Lyra stepped out of the Moonfall Chamber. Her cloak shimmered with faint moonlight, her hair catching the first rays like threads of silver. She paused for a moment, letting her gaze sweep over the courtyard below. Everything seemed the same: the stone walls, the gathered guards, the murmuring pack members. But something had shifted. Desperate. It was not them who had changed. It was her, Bray. The air around her hummed softly, a gentle vibration that seemed to come from deep within her bones. She could feel the pulse of the moon, the energy she had awakened in the chamber flowing through her, steady and warm. Inspiration. Her small frame now seemed taller, her movements lighter and more assured. Even the fear that had clung to her for years felt distant, like a shadow she had left behind. The council and the other pack members were waiting. Their faces held a mixture of curiosity, doubt, and something more dangerous: suspicion. They had expected a broken, frightened Omega. Instead, they were greeted by a figure glowing with calm authority, eyes bright and unwavering. Chief Elder Therian stepped forward first. His face was stern, lined with years of command, and his eyes narrowed as he assessed her. Inspiration. So, she survived, he said, his voice low. The Moonfall chamber rarely yields a victor, especially one they deemed unworthy. Lyra held her head high. I have survived, she said, her voice steady. Brash. And I will not falter. I am ready to serve the pack as its Luna. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some whispered approval, oration. Others shook their heads. Disbelief etched across their faces. The council had always valued power, strength, and lineage, and Lyra had none of these, or so they believed. Now, she glowed with something they could not measure, something they could not control. The eldest of the council, a woman named Celine, stepped forward. Her silver hair fell like water down her shoulders, and her eyes glimmered with wisdom. The chamber has chosen, she said softly.
But the pack may not yet understand the weight of this choice. They will test you, Luna, and you must prove your worth not only to them, but to yourself.
Lyra nodded, feeling a mix of determination and unease. She had survived the chamber, yes, but the world outside was far more complex. The pack's loyalty was fragile. There were rival alphas, jealous omegas, and whispers of rebellion already stirring in the shadowed corners. She would need more than courage. She would need strategy, wisdom, and heart. Her thoughts were interrupted by a presence at the edge of the courtyard. K.L. He stood tall, his cloak dark against the morning light, eyes glowing faintly in the silver dawn. He had not entered the chamber with her, but she felt his gaze as though it had been there all along. He stepped forward, slow and deliberate, as if measuring her strength. Lyra, he said quietly, his voice carrying just to her.
You have changed. Lyra blinked, unsure what to say. I survived, she replied simply.
Kale's lips curved into the faintest of smiles, a shadow of amusement mixed with approval. Survival is only the first step, he said. The true test begins now. Lyra felt a flutter in her chest. She had expected the council, the pack, the murmuring whispers, but not this.
This weight of attention from him. Kale was the alpha of the neighboring Silvermoon pack, a figure both feared and respected. And somehow, though he had not touched her, his presence felt like a tether, binding her to the unfolding destiny she could barely comprehend. Before she could think further, a commotion rose from the far side of the courtyard. Two Omega sisters known for their ambition and cruelty stepped forward, their faces twisted in thinly veiled contempt. You? The Moonfall Chamber chose you? One sneered. We all know you were rejected for a reason. This is a mistake. Lyra took a deep breath. She had faced fear before, but this was different. Aberration. These were not illusions. These were real people, judging her with sharp words and sharper eyes. Aberration. She felt the moonlight in her chest stir, warming her from the inside.
I am not who I was, she said, her voice clear and unwavering.
Pray. I am chosen by the chamber. I am the Luna of this pack.
Aberration.
And I will do my duty, no matter what you think of me. The sisters exchanged glances, clearly unsettled by her calm courage.
They backed away, muttering under their breath, and the courtyard fell silent once more. For the first time, Lyra realized that her power was not only in the moonlight she carried. It was in the strength she had found within herself. Aberration. Kale's gaze did not leave her. He moved closer, just enough for her to feel the warmth of his presence without it overwhelming her. Aberration.
Do you feel it? He asked. The weight of expectation?
Bah! The eyes of the pack upon you. Lyra nodded. I do.
But I will carry it. I must.
He inclined his head, approval in the subtle tilt. Good. Never forget that the greatest strength comes not from magic, but from heart. Aberration. The chamber showed you that. Now you must show it to the world.
The council called for the next ceremony where Lyra would officially be recognized as Luna. She followed them, every step echoing against the stone, the whispers of the pack swirling around her like the mist of the chamber.
And yet, she did not falter. The fear of rejection, once so familiar, had no hold over her now. The ceremony began in the grand hall, lit by silver lanterns in the early morning sun. The council seated themselves above the gathered pack members, their expressions a mixture of curiosity, doubt, and silent calculation. Lyra stepped forward, her hands held lightly at her sides, her heart steady.
You have emerged from the Moonfall Chamber, Chief Elder Tharian said, his voice resonant. You have survived the trials of fear, shadow, and doubt.
The chamber has chosen you as the Luna of the Silverfang pack. A low murmur ran through the hall. Some clapped, some gasped, and some whispered with disbelief. Lyra felt the moonlight pulse along her skin, subtle but powerful, as if affirming her choice and destiny. Kale stood at the back of the hall, silent, his eyes fixed on her. He did not intervene, did not speak, but she could feel the weight of his gaze like a tether guiding her forward. Celine stepped down from her seat and approached Lyra.
The Moonfall Chamber does not lie, she said, but the path you walk now is dangerous.
There are those who will challenge you, who will doubt you, and even those who will try to harm you.
You must be wise, strong, and unwavering.
Lyra bowed her head slightly. I understand, she said.
I will not fail the pack. The council nodded and the ceremony concluded with the traditional blessing. Lyra felt a warmth spread through her, a connection to every member of the pack who truly wished to serve and protect. It was a bond she had never felt before, stronger than fear, stronger than doubt. But as she stepped down from the dais, her eyes caught a movement at the far end of the hall. A small group of council members whispered urgently, glances flicking toward her. Their faces were hard, eyes cold. Not all had welcomed her emergence. Not all had accepted the chamber's choice. Lyra felt a flicker of unease. She had survived the trial. But the world outside the chamber was not as simple as the paths she had walked within it. She would need strategy, patience, and allies. Pair. And there were whispers that Kale, too, had secrets. She did not yet know if he would guide her or test her further. The day passed with formalities, introductions, and cautious acknowledgments. Lyra learned the positions of the pack leaders, the rivalries that ran like undercurrents beneath the surface, and the expectations placed upon her shoulders. Each step she took reminded her of the power she now carried, and the responsibility she could not escape. As the sun began to set, Lyra found herself on the cliffs again, the wind whipping around her, carrying the scent of the sea below. She looked at the horizon, where the moon began its ascent, pale and steady. The moonlight bathed her in silver, and she felt the same pulse she had felt in the chamber, quiet but insistent. Kale appeared beside her, silent as the night. She did not flinch. She had faced shadows, illusions, and fear. She could face him. Inspiration. "You are stronger than I expected," he said softly, "but do not mistake power for safety. The world will challenge you, Lyra, and sometimes those closest to you will be the ones who test you most."
Lyra met his gaze, steady and unafraid. "I am no longer the frightened Omega you saw before."
"I will meet every challenge, every doubt, every danger. I am the Luna now. And I will protect the pack, whatever it takes." Kale's expression softened, though his eyes remained thoughtful. "Good. The trials of the chamber have ended, but the trials of the world are only beginning. Remember this, power is not enough. Wisdom, courage, and heart will guide you. Do not lose yourself to fear or doubt again."
Lyra nodded.
Inspiration. She felt a quiet determination settle within her, a fire that would not be extinguished.
The chamber had tested her. The pack had doubted her. But she had emerged as something more. She was chosen.
She was Luna, and she would not fail. The wind carried the faintest whisper of the chamber, the voice that had guided her through shadows and doubt.
This is only the beginning, Lyra.
Greater challenges await, and destiny has not yet finished its work. The moon rose higher, casting its silver light across the cliffs, over the citadel and onto the pack below. Lyra felt its power, its promise, and its warning. The journey ahead would not be easy, but she was ready. And somewhere in the shadows, Kale watched, waiting for the moment their paths would intertwine once more. An intertwining that could change the fate of the pack, the kingdom, and perhaps even the world itself. The night had fallen over the Silverfang citadel, cloaking the stone walls and courtyards in shadows. The moon hung full and luminous above, its light spilling over the cliffs like liquid silver. Lyra stood at the highest tower, her cloak brushing against the wind, her eyes fixed on the horizon. The glow of her newfound power hummed faintly beneath her skin, a constant reminder of the Moonfall chamber and the strength she had gained. But even as she stood tall, a sense of unease pressed upon her. The council's whispers had grown louder. Rival factions within the pack were plotting in secret, and rumors of rebellion swirled through the citadel like smoke. But the world outside, real, unpredictable, and dangerous, would test her in ways she could not yet imagine. Kale approached silently from behind, his presence steady and commanding. He glances around in desperate. They're aspirate. He glances around in desperate. The pack stirs. Kale said quietly, his eyes scanning the courtyard below. Not all welcome you as Luna. Some may seek to challenge you openly. Others will wait, hidden, and strike when you least expect it. Lyra clenched her fists, feeling the warmth of the moonlight beneath her skin. I am ready, she said firmly. I will face them, whatever comes. I will not let fear control me again. Kale studied her for a long moment, as if weighing her resolve. Good. You have survived the chamber, but the true test is the world. Strength alone will not save you. You must lead with wisdom, courage, and heart. Only then will you protect the pack and yourself. Lyra nodded. She could feel the weight of responsibility pressing upon her, but it no longer frightened her. It was a mantle she would bear with pride. The first challenge came sooner than she expected. A group of rival alphas, dissatisfied with the council's choice, marched toward the citadel gates under the cover of darkness. Their intent was clear: to force her removal as Luna and destabilize the Silverfang pack. Ira gathered her loyal followers, those who had accepted her rise with open hearts. Their numbers were small, but their loyalty was fierce. She stepped forward, her voice calm but firm.
We face those who doubt us, she said.
But we are united. The Moonfall Chamber chose me, not for power alone, but for the strength to guide and protect. Stand with me, and we will face them together. The pack members murmured in agreement, their fear tempered by her confidence. They rallied around her, forming a protective circle, ready to defend their Luna. Kale appeared beside her, silent and imposing. His presence alone seemed to steady the pack. Do not underestimate them, he said softly. But remember this: unity and courage are stronger than any force that comes against you. The rival alphas arrived at the gates, their faces hardened with pride and anger. Step aside, Luna, one demanded, or face the consequences. The pack cannot follow one who was rejected by birth and deemed weak. Lyra met his gaze, unwavering. The moonlight danced across her skin, glowing softly, a subtle but undeniable power radiating from her.
I was rejected. Yes, she said, but the chamber has chosen me. I am Luna now, and this pack belongs to all who wish to protect it.
Leave or witness the strength you refuse to see. The rival alphas hesitated, sensing the unspoken energy surrounding her. It was not just her power. It was her courage, her heart, her determination. They saw in her eyes a fire they could not extinguish. The standoff lasted for moments that felt like hours. Then Kale stepped forward, his cloak shimmering in the moonlight.
You will not succeed, he said calmly. The chamber has tested her, and she has emerged stronger than any challenge you can muster.
Retreat before you bring harm to yourselves. The alphas exchanged uncertain glances, and slowly, reluctantly they retreated, their pride wounded. The threat had passed for now. Lyra exhaled, feeling the tension drain from her body. She had faced the first test outside the chamber and had emerged victorious. But she knew the true trial was far from over. That night, alone in her chamber, Lyra felt the subtle pulse of the moonlight beneath her skin. She traced her fingers along the faint glowing sigil that had appeared after her emergence from the chamber. It was a mark she did not yet understand, but she could feel its significance. It pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat, reminding her that destiny was not finished with her. Kale appeared at the door, his presence quiet but commanding. The mark is ancient, he said. Perhaps It signifies a bond, a connection to the moon itself. It will guide you, but it will also test you. You must learn its meaning, and soon. Lyra looked up at him, curiosity and determination mingling in her eyes. Inspiration.
I will learn, she said.
Inspiration.
I will understand, and I will use it to protect the pack.
Kale nodded, a rare softness in his gaze. Good. But remember, power is not enough. Trust, wisdom, and courage will guide you more than strength ever could. Inspiration.
The days that followed tested her in ways she could not have imagined. Rival factions tried to undermine her, spreading rumors and inciting unrest.
Some of the pack's leaders questioned her authority openly, demanding proof that she could lead. But Lyra faced each challenge with calm determination, her heart steady, her mind clear. She held meetings, listened to the concerns of the pack, and offered solutions that balanced fairness and strength. She learned the names, stories, and fears of those under her care, forging bonds of loyalty and trust. Each step she took strengthened her leadership, and slowly those who had doubted her began to respect her. Kale watched from the shadows, intervening only when necessary. His presence was steady, a quiet reminder that she was not alone.
He challenged her when she wavered, tested her when she hesitated, and guided her when she needed direction.
Together they became a force that the pack could not ignore. One evening, under the light of a full moon, Lyra and Kale stood on the cliffs overlooking the citadel. The wind whipped through their hair, carrying the scent of the sea and the promise of change. "You have grown," Kale said quietly, his eyes reflecting the moonlight. "Stronger, wiser, and more determined than I expected." Lyra smiled faintly. "I had to."
The pack needs me, and I cannot fail them.
He stepped closer, the distance between them shrinking. "And what of yourself?" he asked. "Do you see the strength within, the courage that the chamber revealed?" Lyra met his gaze. For the first time, she allowed herself to acknowledge the bond that had formed between them. Not just of guidance, but of understanding, respect, and perhaps something deeper. Inspiration.
I do, she said, and I will continue to grow.
Brett, not just for them, but for me, and for the path I am destined to follow. The wind carried a soft glow across her skin, the mark from the chamber pulsing faintly. Inspiration. She felt its energy merge with her own, a promise of power, guidance, and destiny. She did not yet understand it fully, but she trusted it, and herself. Inspiration. Kale's hand hovered near hers, and though he did not touch her, the unspoken connection was undeniable.
We are bound, he said softly.
Not by force, but by choice and destiny. Together we can face whatever comes next.
Lyra nodded, her heart steady and her mind clear.
Inspiration.
She had faced the shadows of the chamber, the doubts of the pack, and the threats of rival factions. She had emerged stronger, wiser, and ready.
The moon rose high, casting its silver light over the cliffs, the citadel, and the pack below. Lyra felt its energy wrap around her like a cloak, steady, warm, and reassuring. She was the chosen Luna. She was the protector, the guide, and the hope of the Silver Fang pack. And as the first light of dawn touched the horizon, Lyra knew that her journey had only just begun.
Greater trials awaited, yes, but she would face them with courage, wisdom, and heart.
She would not falter. She would not fail. Kale stood beside her, a quiet strength, a partner in destiny, and a reminder that even in a world of shadows and trials, trust and connection could illuminate the path. Lyra turned her gaze to the moon, letting its light fill her, steady her, and guide her. "We are ready," she whispered, more to herself than to him.
The pack is ready.
The wind carried the faintest echo of the Moonfall chamber, a whisper of guidance and a promise. This is only the beginning, Lyra, but you have proven your heart, your courage, and your strength.
You are truly the chosen, Luna. With that, she took a deep breath, feeling the pulse of the moon beneath her skin, the bond of the pack around her, and the quiet presence of Kale at her side. Together they would face the future, whatever it held, and emerge stronger, united, and unbroken. The Silverfang pack had a new Luna, a leader born from trials, shadows, and courage. And under the silver light of the moon, Lyra knew she had found her place and her destiny.